A solar storm is coming. The sun is waking up, and it's not just heating up, it's heading into what scientists call the battle zone. This is where the sun's magnetic forces clash in a cosmic tug-of-war, creating some of the most intense space weather we've ever seen. But before we jump into the heart of the battle zone, we need to understand where it all starts, the solar maximum. Think of it as the sun's wildest phase, a period of extreme activity that sets the stage for everything that follows. So, what exactly is solar maximum, and why is it so important? Let's break it down. And hey, if you're fascinated by space and want to keep exploring the mysteries of the universe with us, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Solar maximum is the sun at its most active. Every 11 years or so, the sun goes through a cycle, and during this peak, it's all about sunspots, solar flares, and massive plasma eruptions called coronal mass ejections, or CMEs. Think of it as the sun's storm season. These cycles were discovered over 150 years ago, when scientists noticed that the number of sunspots, the dark patches on the sun's surface, rises and falls over time. During solar maximum, those sunspots show up more often, and they're a sign of all the intense magnetic activity happening on the sun. Here's where it gets interesting and a little intense. Solar flares send out bursts of radiation that can mess with things like radio communications and GPS signals. And when CMEs hit Earth, they can trigger geomagnetic storms. These storms can disrupt power grids, damage satellites, and even put astronauts at risk. The last solar maximum was back in 2014 during solar cycle 24. Now, in 2024, we're in solar cycle 25's maximum. But here's the catch. Scientists can't pinpoint the exact moment the sun hits its peak. They need months, sometimes years, of sunspot data to confirm it. And just when you think it's over, the sun can throw us a curveball. Sometimes what looks like the peak is just the first act, and there's an even bigger surge later. It's what scientists call a double maxima. Of course, it's not all bad news. Solar maximum also brings incredible light shows, the northern and southern lights. These dazzling displays happen when solar particles collide with Earth's atmosphere. And during solar maximum, they become brighter and more frequent. But with the beauty comes some risks. Solar storms can affect the technology we rely on daily, like satellites, power grids, and even planes flying at high altitudes. It's a reminder of how connected we are to our sun and why it's so important to understand its cycles. The solar maximum is a time of incredible energy, beauty, and challenge. It's the sun's way of reminding us who's boss. And while it's unpredictable, it's also a chance to learn more about our amazing star. Want to stay in the loop about the sun and other cosmic wonders? Hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe for more. Just when you think the sun has calmed down after solar maximum, it dives straight into something even more intense, what scientists now call the battle zone. This is a wild time when the sun's magnetic forces go head-to-head, and the effects can ripple all the way to Earth. Here's the deal. The sun has a longer cycle that lasts 22 years, called the Hale cycle. It's basically the time it takes for the sun's magnetic field to flip and then flip back again. During this cycle, giant magnetic bands pop up at the poles and slowly slide down toward the equator. But after solar maximum, two bands show up in each hemisphere, and this is when things get tense. These magnetic bands start fighting for dominance, creating what scientists are calling the battle zone. And this magnetic tug-of-war has some serious consequences. One of the big ones: coronal holes. These are massive dark patches where the sun's magnetic field opens up, letting out streams of high-speed solar wind. Sometimes these gusts are so intense they can even disrupt other planets. Back in 2022, one huge coronal hole sent a solar wind so powerful it temporarily messed with Mars' atmosphere. Here on Earth, this means more solar particles slamming into our upper atmosphere. The result? Our atmosphere swells up and satellites in low Earth orbit feel the extra drag. This has already caused some satellites to fall back to Earth, and with thousands of new satellites launching every year, this problem is only growing. Still, the battle zone is a critical time for scientists and engineers. It's testing how well our technology, like satellites and power grids, can handle the sun's unpredictable behavior. And with space becoming busier than ever, we're learning in real time just how much we rely on understanding our star. The sun's battle zone is a reminder that our star is anything but static. It's alive, dynamic, and constantly changing. And while it's stunning to watch, it's also a force we have to respect and adapt to. Now, while the solar maximum and battle zone sound fascinating, you might be wondering, how does this affect us here on Earth? Well, it's not all just about the lights in the sky. Solar storms, especially geomagnetic ones, can have some serious impacts on our planet. Think about your GPS or cell phone. These systems rely on satellites to work, and solar flares and geomagnetic storms can mess with those signals. Imagine being in the middle of a road trip and your GPS suddenly goes haywire. Definitely not ideal. And it's not just about small annoyances. Solar storms have actually caused major power outages, like the 1989 storm that knocked out power to millions in Canada. This is why scientists track solar activity so closely. They need to predict when these storms will happen, so we can brace ourselves and protect our tech. Now, how do we know when the sun is about to throw a tantrum? How do we forecast all this crazy space weather? Well, it's actually pretty cool. Scientists use a combination of solar telescopes, satellites, and super advanced models to keep an eye on the sun. We have instruments like NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory that can see solar flares in real time, so we can get a heads up when a big event is on its way. And that's a wrap on today's deep dive into the sun. From solar maximum to the battle zone, and everything in between, the sun's influence on Earth is something we can't ignore. But now, thanks to scientists and space weather forecasting, we're getting better at predicting and understanding these events. So next time you catch a glimpse of the Auroras or hear about a solar storm, you'll know exactly what's going on up there in our cosmic neighborhood. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more space and science content.